The house that feeds. I didn't believe the rumors about the house on Hawthorne Street, not at first. Every small town has its share of urban legends, and the so-called feeding house was no different. People said that strange things happened there. People would go in and they wouldn't come out. Others claimed the house fed on those who entered, as if it had a hunger of its own. I thought it was just a creepy story, a ghost tale to keep kids from exploring abandoned places. But that all changed the night I went inside. It started when I was visiting my friend Caleb. We were sitting around his garage, nursing a few beers and swapping stories about the old neighborhood. Hawthorne Street came up, as it always did. That street was infamous for its eerie, vacant houses, particularly the one that sat at the very end, its windows boarded up, the front door hanging on its hinges like a mouth waiting to be fed. "The feeding house," Caleb said, his tone conspiratorial. "It's real, man. I swear, I've seen stuff." I rolled my eyes. "Come on, Caleb, we're not kids anymore. It's just an old house, probably falling apart inside." "Then why don't you prove it?" he said, grinning. "Spend an hour in there. See if you make it out." "An hour?" I snorted. "That's it?" His grin widened. "If you think it's so easy, then yeah, just an hour. Alone." It was stupid, I know. I should have just laughed it off and gone home. But the challenge dug into me. I wasn't about to back down from Caleb's dare, especially over some dumb ghost story. So I grabbed a flashlight and we headed to Hawthorne Street. The house looked worse than I remembered. Its peeling paint, the sagging roof, and the overgrown yard gave it a sense of decay that seemed to seep into the air around it. Even from the street, you could feel something off, a heaviness. But I told myself it was just nerves. "An hour," Caleb reminded me, standing at the broken gate. "You've got an hour. Good luck." With a final mocking wave, I walked up the cracked sidewalk, feeling the weight of his gaze behind me. The front door creaked open as I pushed it, revealing a dark, dusty interior. I stepped inside, my flashlight casting weak beams across the rotting wood floors and walls. The first thing I noticed was the smell. It wasn't the musty odor I expected from an abandoned house. It was something wet, damp, like the place was alive, breathing with rot and decay. I wrinkled my nose and kept moving. I checked my phone. 1 hour. Easy. I wandered through the house, shining my light across broken furniture, scattered debris, and walls covered in the strange stains. Each room felt the same, empty, abandoned, and yet I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone, that something was watching me. The farther I went, the worse the air became. It felt thick, oppressive, like the walls were closing in. My flashlight flickered as I approached the kitchen. I stopped, the beam of light barely penetrating the darkness beyond the doorway. Then I heard it, a soft, wet sound, like something dripping. But it wasn't water. It was heavier, more deliberate. I hesitated, listening, my heart beginning to race. I stepped into the kitchen. The flashlight flickered again, casting long, eerie shadows across the room. And that's when I saw it. Something on the floor, pooling near the sink. Dark, thick, and oozing. I stepped closer, my stomach churning as the smell hit me. Coppery, metallic. Blood. I stumbled back, my heart pounding. The sound of something shifting behind me made me whip around. The flashlight flickered, its beam catching a glimpse of movement in the corner of the room. A shadow, long and thin, slithering along the wall. "Hello?" My voice came out weak, trembling. No answer, just more movement. I backed away, stepping toward the hallway, my hand shaking so badly the flashlight beam jittered across the floor. But the darkness seemed to follow me, creeping in closer, thicker. The house was alive. I could feel it. The walls were pulsing, almost breathing. A low, rhythmic thudding began, like a heartbeat, reverberating through the floor beneath my feet. I turned to leave, but the doorway was gone. Where the entrance to the hallway had been, there was now just more wall, as if the house had shifted. My breathing quickened. I spun around, searching for any way out, but the shadows were everywhere, growing, closing in. The wet, slithering sound came again, closer this time. And then from the corner of my eye, I saw something move. something impossibly long and dark, snaking out from the shadows toward me. I stumbled backward, falling against the kitchen counter, the flashlight slipping from my hand and clattering to the floor. The beam sputtered out, leaving me in complete darkness. The thudding grew louder, faster. The air was suffocating, heavy with that coppery stench. I scrambled on my hands and knees, searching blindly for the flashlight. My fingers brushed against something warm and sticky, blood pooling beneath me. And then I felt it, a hand, cold, wet, and inhuman, gripping my ankle. I screamed, kicking at the invisible force, but it only tightened its grip, pulling me toward the center of the room. The floor seemed to shift beneath me, and I realized with dawning horror that it wasn't just the hand pulling me. The house itself was moving. The walls groaned and creaked as the floorboards split open beneath me, revealing a dark, gaping maw. The house was feeding. I clawed at the floor, my nails splintering as I tried to hold on, but it was no use. The hand dragged me closer, and I could feel the cold, wet breath of the house on my skin. It was hungry. It had been waiting for someone like me. With one final pull, the floor gave way, and I was plunged into the darkness below. The last thing I remember before everything went black was the sound of the house, its walls groaning and creaking as it closed around me.